on my good friend Elga from E.A. Goodman. I love seeing Elga. She always has such amazing information and amazing tips. Now, E.A. Goodman is an estate planning. I don't like to call you like a company because you're like so a part of people's lives, really. And you were just talking to me a little off Zoom, and we were talking about your clients who really are like your family members. So I wanted to have you on during Pet Month for a couple of reasons, Miss Elga. And welcome, by the way. You look wonderful. Pandemic life has agreed with you.
Thanks, Terrie. It's great to be here and to see you also.
I wanted to have you on because I'll tell you, this has been a year that we have lived through, and thank God you're okay and I'm okay, and we've made it through this year like no other. And I think the thing that we realized, nobody had any idea. I always say if we knew in January or February of last year what was coming, we probably would have went underground in a bunker and said, don't even call me for 2 years. We had no idea what we were heading into. My biggest fear was if something happened to me and I got sick and ended up in a hospital, where would my pets go? Because it wasn't a time where you could say, you know what, I'm going to come to your house and you're going to come to my house. And it was such a different time. Talk to me about how people planned for their pets and how you guys were a part of, you know, the fabric of people's lives over the last year in these unprecedented times.
Oh, absolutely, Terrie. I mean, last year, none of us could have planned for what we saw last year. As you know from working with me, I've always talked about planning for your pets. Our pets are like our family. And, you know, when we go on vacation, we make plans. Who's going to take care of the pets? Where are they staying? If they have medications, how are we taking care of that? With COVID last year, that issue became even more into focus for our clients because most of us were worried about what happens if the unthinkable happens and we are not able to care for our pets. So we've worked with clients not only in their estate planning, but I have last year one of my clients got sick during this process, and there was no one else to take care of the pets. And he was in an assisted living. His family was not around because they lived far away and they couldn't travel here. And they wouldn't let me, you know, I'm a pet lover, so I offered to go take care of his cat and they wouldn't let me in. So what we ended up doing, they were able to bring the cat to me, and I took the cat in, and the cat stayed with me for 12 weeks. She was lovely, but so the reason I'm sharing that story is because that highlights like how it was very stressful for him because he was sick, and he was like, what am I going to do? And I said, I'll take her, because there was no other options at that time of where was this little cat going to go. And she stayed with us, and she was lovely. And then we were so happy when we reunited them. But that does highlight why we need to think about that ahead of time.
I think last we spoke, and you've been at WDHA events, you've come out to Dog Days of Summer, and you know, you're such a part of the community, especially in Morris County. And for so many of our Morris County people, everybody knows Elga, everybody knows E.A. Goodman. You've got rescues in the family. You know, you and your sister are so all about the animals. And we talked mostly about what happens if, you know, someone passes away, or what happens if people get divorced. And we never really talked about, you know, what happens if a giant crisis ensues in your life, because you don't want to talk about that. That's not the most pleasant thing to talk about. Now we kind of go even further with that, because during pandemic times, everybody was adopting animals. People were working from home, and people felt like, I'm home, I have more time to give them. And so now you've got triple the animals in homes. I have animal shelters who tell me, Terrie, it's definitely not been a bad thing for us. We can't keep the animals in. They come in, we get them in, and they go out to homes. So how now do you think this is going to affect new pet owners in the future?
Right. And it's interesting because there are so many new pet owners. So when we do the planning for them, making them aware that this is an issue, right? So the pets came into their lives when people were home. We needed something to make us happy. And what better than a pet? You know, they really become a part of your life. They make you happy to be around them. But you also need to, you're the protector. Your pet is a family member, and you have to think of your pet almost like a child, because if something happens to you, who's going to take care of them? And so that discussion has become more prevalent. And I always raise that issue with clients, like what do you have in effect? What provisions do you have in effect in case something happens to you if you can't take care of your pet? And we talk about, designating a pet guardian, someone that is going to be able to have access to your home, so that if you're not well, they have a key, they can get in, they can take the pet if needed, or feed them, take them to the vet, and care instructions. So those are all the types of issues we address with clients and talk to them. And now that pets have become even more, they're more involved in people's lives, it just becomes a bigger issue to address.
And I was thinking about it. One never really thinks, because you could always say, well, I have a neighbor or a friend. And if that neighbor or friend isn't available, or they become sick, or they're out of town or out of the country, there are legal ramifications where people just can't just go into your home, I would imagine. So having that down and on paper is a very important task, I think, for a pet owner.
Absolutely. And I think you and I talked about this a while ago, but most people don't realize that pets are considered property. They're not considered like a feeling, living entity. So for legal purposes, they're considered property. So unless you have made specific arrangements for your pet, for the care of your pet, they're not going to get the treatment that you would normally expect. And so it is so critical for your everyday documents to provide a power of attorney for your pet, for someone that has the authority to make decisions for them, for their care, for taking them to the vet. So for example, I had a power of attorney for my client so that I could take his cat to the vet. Now, we had put that in place a long time ago as a kind of a backup, because he has a very small family, and we knew that his family members would have a difficulty in case of an emergency. So we did have a plan, but we never expected that it would have to come in place. And so what I would say is make sure that you have thought through they're sort of mundane issues, but you need the legal paperwork. Like you said, you need to have it in writing. It has to be signed so that someone can step in and help you with the care of your pet in case you can't.
Yeah, and you never think about that, really. God forbid something were to have happened to that cat, and all of a sudden it got really sick overnight and it was suffering. And if you didn't have that legal documentation, could you have taken that cat to the vet, or maybe put that cat out of its misery if the cat was suffering? There are things that we never really think about. And our pets, unfortunately, by law, recognized as property, by us recognized as family.
Correct.
So I think if you are doing estate planning and having someone like you as their estate planner, who is such an animal lover and who loves pets and who wants their best interest, always upheld, I think it's really, really important for people. So Elga, what are the steps people would take? How would they contact you? Do you have to set up paperwork? Is it just power of attorney? What kind of things lead you to the process of being able to make sure that your pets are cared for properly?
Sure. So we take care of that as part of our estate planning process. So if someone wants to go through that, they would go to my website, E.A. Goodman Law, LLC. There's my website, and you would make an appointment. We give you a questionnaire. The questionnaire is going to include questions regarding your pets and whether you have pets and what kind of care you want and what plans you want to make for them during your lifetime and also upon death, because we do help clients deal with what happens with my pets. A lot of us have pets that may outlive us. People have birds and horses and all sorts of pets. And so you have to plan for them in their estate planning documents. And so part of the process is my speaking with the clients and understanding what their wishes are. And then, yes, we write it included in their proper documentation, whether it's their wills, whether it's their a pet power of attorney. Maybe they need a pet trust. I had a client who was married, and she was a horse lover, and she had a horse. Her husband was a little lukewarm about the horse, but they were came to an agreement, and we had a trust for the horse, and we had provisions as to who would come in and take the horse if something happened to her. She identified her friend, and she had a backup for that friend in case something happened. The husband was very relieved because he didn't want the responsibility of what would happen if his wife couldn't take care of the horse. And we provided funding for care of the horse, the feeding, the vetting, and those types of issues. So the process is fairly simple. You give us a call, you contact us via email, and when we discuss your estate planning process and your needs, if you say, Elga, really, I want to come in because I have a pet, we focus on that and help you make arrangements for your pets.
I love that. I mean, they mean so much to us. My
Absolutely.
my pets are my kids. They're like my children. And there are things that you never really thought of. And I think now with what we went through this past year, I think everything has come full circle and people look at things a lot differently. All of a sudden, everything comes into focus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just one point that we don't focus a lot, but I think a lot of my clients that are pet lovers are very much supporters of all of the shelters that do such great work in this area. And so a lot of times we work with the shelters. If I have a client who is making a nice gift to the shelter where he's adopted a lot of his pets from, and they actually have an arrangement that if there is no one to step in to take his pets when he passes away, that they will take the pets, keep them, obviously shelter them, and he's making a nice gift to the shelter in order to accommodate that. So that's always another option. So you're actually doing two good things because you're
Wow.
providing for your pets, but with the gift to a shelter, for example,
Yeah, right.
you're really making a difference in pets' lives.
I think it's so important to have someone like you doing estate planning because there are so many things that one doesn't think about. And it's so nice to have peace of mind with somebody who, as I always say with other pet lovers, somebody who gets it. And you get it because I think people that love animals, certainly connect with other people that love animals. And I think that that's a very unique service that you provide. I don't think you're going to get that from anybody or everybody that you go to estate planning for, people that are going to have such a heart about it and also understand the real worries and cares and needs of people who really want to provide, an extension of life for their pets long beyond, their life, if God forbid that ends up happening.
Absolutely.
Quality of life is so important for our babies, and like I said, my dogs are my kids. So when you go through a period of time like we went through, I think, again, my biggest fear was, gosh, what if something happens to me? Who's going to take the pets? And I think a lot of people felt like that. I've had friends who were like, do I know for a fact that you would be there to take my pets for me? And knowing that there are legal ramifications and there's a way that we can get that done for our pets and make sure that nothing ever changes, I think is really a peace of mind that we all need these days. Now, Elga, if people want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you? Give us your website again if they want to give you guys a call.
It's EA.Goodmanlaw.com. And if they want to give us a call, it's 973-512-2610.
And of course, you do all kinds of estate planning. But I think the unique thing for us during Pet Month is to let people know that you do need to plan for your pets. And if you want to plan for your pets, you've got to visit Elga and everybody at E.A. Goodman because, as I said before, they get it. They're from the heart. They're a huge part of our community. And I always love seeing you. Thank you for sponsoring our calendar. Year after year, you've been involved with our Rock and Rough calendars, which we are so proud of. And it's always nice to have, the E.A. Goodman logo right there on the calendar. And also for being with us at pet events. It's always great to see you and have your booth set up and people can come by and get to know you and the staff at E.A. Goodman and the wonderful, wonderful work you do. Because I always say, you know what? There's nothing like peace of mind in life. We don't get enough of it. We need more of it.
Absolutely.
And I think this year has taught us that in a big way.
Yes, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. And I love being part of the WDHA family and all the things you do for the pets.
And I can't wait to see you and your sister again.
That'll be fun. I can't wait till we can actually do an in-person, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You are always so much fun, at the events. You guys always have such a great time. And it's so funny because the two of you are always down on the ground with all of the shelter dogs, smooching, pooch smooching, and, getting to know everybody.
That's the best part of it. That's so much fun.
I think the same thing. It's just always so much fun. Elga, it is great to see you. Thank you for the awesome, awesome information, and all the best in health and happiness to you.
You as well.